Hey, what's up, guys? America, better yet, because I have to keep saying that. How's it going? I am apparently feeling much better. This is like the first video that I've done in a while where I don't feel like ridiculously sick or tired or um, drained or whatever um, context you want to throw in there about feeling like a piece of shit. But feeling pretty good. Came off a rest day yesterday. I'll get into that in a second, but just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I got a letter from ComEd, and they said they're doing work in the area, so my power is subject to going off at any time. So if the screen suddenly goes black and you still hear my voice, just you could do with that what you want. Um, but yeah, let's get right to it. So first things first, my back is feeling a whole lot better, probably about 90-95%. And I'm just really happy that I was able to navigate. Well, I'm not happy that it took that long to get there, and I'm not happy that it got uh, tweaked in the first place, which is completely my fault. But I am glad that I was able to understand what that meant in terms of changing training parameters and work around it in an intelligent fashion. Because I was still able to get in the gym just like this week, 6 days a week. I know I keep saying I want to do seven, but I feel like by the time that seventh day rolls around, my recovery is already pretty taxed as is. So I think six is a nice sweet spot, at least for the next couple months, or maybe month or two. Speaking of, it's been 2 full months now, eight full weeks, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, speaking of with my back, I went to a lot of blood flow restriction work, and it took a good maybe week and a half to 2 weeks for me to feel even this good about my back to maybe consider reintroducing some regular intensity work and not using as much BFR. But in the interim, it was a really useful change because it allowed me to continue to be in the gym and to progress and also to recover quicker because um, training is probably one of the best forms of active recovery you're ever going to come across. You have systemic like painkillers, your tolerance is higher um, for pain during exercise because your body's warmer and your hormones are in a certain ratio and um, training also just increases your blood flow. So, and especially with like your lower back, that's not an area that has a lot of like venous transfer for your blood. So you need to do something that's drawing blood and fluid to that area. And so I actually did a lot of it hurt like a bitch, but like blood flow restriction work with no holding no weight, just doing the 45-degree extensions for like 30 reps a set, and that's nuts. The burn is crazy, but it definitely paid off because that got a lot of not only did it allow me to keep progressing with my hamstrings, but that got a lot of blood flow down towards my lower back, and I think that's a big part of why it feels as good as it does right now. So, like I said, 6 days. I'm just gonna go ahead and schedule an off day on Sundays now, um, like I was doing maybe the first 4 to 5 weeks of this, um, and just kind of use that off day to my advantage. Really set it up to be kind of a day where I like restock or decompress. Um, because as much as I want to get in there 7 days a week, there's a limit to, like I said, my recovery capacity and just how effective it would even be for me to even go to the gym in the first place. But I introduced a few new exercises to my training routine, so I'll be training 6 days a week and hitting every body part 6 days a week instead of four, because it was 2 out of every 3 days for every body part. Now it's going to be six, which is why I introduced new exercises. I don't want to just keep pounding myself with the same exercises because that'll tax your recovery capacity as well to an extent. You can get around that a little bit because your nervous system will catch up and you'll become more advanced with the movement itself. So there's a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm already pushing the limit of my recovery capacity as it is. So I'd rather kind of take a more moderate approach to that instead of just being like, oh yeah, I'll just, instead of squatting, 4 days a week, I'll squat 6. Like, no, I don't want to do that. So introducing a few new exercises. A big tip in terms of efficiency: pair your sets. Don't do supersets because it's going to reduce your quality of work on the second exercise, which is pretty intuitive. But if you pair your sets, you pair your exercises. And what do I mean by that? So say you pair, you're in the squat rack, so you do squats and you pair that with barbell overhead press. So you do a set of squats, you rest maybe 90 seconds, then you do a set of overhead press, rest another 90 seconds. By the time you're on that next set of squats, you've rested the two 90-second intervals, so 3 minutes, plus the amount of time it took you to do the set of the overhead press, so maybe 30 more seconds. So that's over 3 minutes of recovery time for your quads locally, because fatigue is mostly a local process. There is some like total systemic fatigue building up, but general fatigue, it's more, in general, fatigue is more local to the muscle. So you're allowing your quads, or this is just in this example, but you're allowing your quads to rest up and for a full 3 minutes or plus while you're still getting more work in. That allows you to be more efficient. And I wrote an article about overcoming fitness obstacles, and time was a big consideration for a lot of people. And this is one of those changes to just take your efficiency up while still allowing you to get good quality work in. So I'm going to be pairing all of my exercises. I have 6 per session, so I'll just be doing 3 pairs. So that will allow me to get those 3 pairs done in roughly 20 minutes a pop. And even though I'm doing 6 exercises, it'll take me just an hour to get through, and I'll still be well rested. In the interim, in relative terms, it's still going to be a tough workout. I'm not oblivious. But yeah, that's the major training change. 6 days a week, every day with the body part frequency, new exercises, pairing my sets, and reintroducing some regular intensity lower body work, like leg curls, leg extensions, even glute ham raises. But I won't be adding weight to it. I'll just be doing it non-blood flow restricted, which is a good step in the right direction for me. Okay, now probably the reason why you guys tuned in anyway. The progress, which was decent, but it comes with caveats. So backtrack. Last week, based on the numbers, and there is some skepticism with the numbers at this point, but I'll get to that in a second. It allowed me to increase my calories a little bit further, and most of that came in the form of carbohydrate. So I could tell that I was holding a little bit more water, because when you store glycogen, which is the storage form of carbohydrate, I think every gram of glycogen pulls, or holds another 4 grams of water, or whatever the ratio is. It's 4 to 1. I don't know which direction it is. Maybe 4 grams of carbs stores 1 gram of water, or 1 gram of water stores 4 grams of carbs. Whichever. Google it. But I could tell I was holding a little bit more water, and that's because I was eating probably like 70 more grams of carbs on a per day basis. But the reading on the chisel, I have the body composition monitor. It continued to show decreasing body fat. So I'm like, okay, what could be the confounder here? And then when I woke up today after taking that rest day yesterday, and like I wrote previously, on rest days you should eat way less because you're not sending that stimulus to grow to your body, so there's no reason for those excess calories. So I ate way less. I ate about like half or less than the regular amount of carbs that I would. And when I woke up today, there's 2 measurements that the chisel takes: muscle quality and body fat percentage. So not only was muscle quality lower, body fat percentage was slightly higher by maybe 0.4%, as it was opposed to the average during the week. So this leads me to believe that, just like with a DEXA scan, a chisel can be confounded by glycogen, muscle glycogen levels. And why do I believe this? Because, well, if I'm storing more glycogen and it's reading that I have a higher muscle quality and lower body fat, then it's registering that glycogen and water mass as lean mass, which it's a confounding variable that even a DEXA scan suffers from. So I wouldn't be surprised if the chisel wasn't exempt to this as well. Um, Implications for that. That probably means that the data that I've accumulated up to this point is probably maybe just shifted up 0.5%. So the trend is still holding. I'm still decreasing, but instead of actually being, because I think my body fat percentage on average this week was like 14.3. Instead of it being 14.3, it's probably closer to like 14.7 or 8. So the trend is like this, but in reality, it's probably just like the or higher, a little bit higher, like 0.5% higher, which is fine, which means I'm still under 15%. And speaking of DEXA, I have one scheduled on Friday, so we're going to get some good comparative data. I'm going to bring my chisel in. Shout out to Paige if you're watching this. That's who I scheduled my DEXA scan with at DEXA Fit. Google that as well. So while you're googling the how much water is stored through glycogen, Google DEXA Fit, and go give them your money. Because yeah, I've always wanted to get a DEXA scan, and this is gonna be great because I'm gonna bring my chisel there and do a comparative thing. I'll do one scan with the chisel, then hop on the table. I think that's how DEXAs work, and then get a scan that way, and then compare apples to apples. With it being Friday, my off day is going to be Sunday, so I will be coming into it with a good deal of stored glycogen, you could say. You will say, because I'll be coming off of the night where I've trained and then ate, or surrounded that training with pretty carb-heavy meals, and then going right in the next morning at about, I think, at 8, and getting those scans done. So those may be confounded as well, but you got to base it on something. You know, you can't just wait around for the perfect scenario. And like I said, the trend is going to be the trend, regardless. So back to the actual progress. I gained on average 2.5 pounds on the scale, which is fine because, like I said, some of that was water weight. And even though this reading here, like I said, the body fat percentage was lower during the week when I knew I was storing more water, so that allowed me to have a higher scale reading and a lower body fat percentage. So maybe these numbers are a little off because it says I gained on average just over 3 pounds of muscle this week. I don't know about all that. I do know that I was eating right about maintenance calories, so or based on the numbers at least, I was eating in maybe like a 3 to 5% deficit, which is very mild, and you could absolutely, especially as an intermediate like myself, expect to gain mass with an energy balance of that moderate intensity. But I mean, that's really pie in the sky type numbers. I don't expect anyone to be pulling 3 pounds of additional muscle mass a week. And there's where you get some issues with the glycogen confounding the data. I did drop just under a pound of fat mass, or at least according to my numbers on average for the week. So if anything, even if these numbers are slightly inflated, if anything, the trend is still continuing in the right direction. So I'm still gaining muscle mass while losing fat mass. In absolute terms, what would that be? I don't know. I mean, I think this Friday is going to show a lot, but I also think it's unfair in practical terms to just assume that I have to wait till after I deplete for a day just to get an accurate read of my body fat percentage. So in practical terms, that means I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing here and basing my numbers on the data that I do have because it's been working pretty well so far. I'm willing to bet a good amount of money that regardless of where the measurement is, I'm right about or below 15% body fat, which is way less than I was. and I'm still either maintaining or even gaining some scale weight, which is great because if I am losing that body fat percentage, um, that means that that weight is being maintained by muscle mass, which is the entire point. And yeah, that's about the end of that. Um, diet wise, a little bit more heavy on the fat because I saw that I was um, because like I said, I did gain scale weight. That's not necessarily the goal, especially with what I'm trying to set up with my deficit here. I'm trying to actually to lose a moderate amount of scale weight, but to keep that moderated enough to where it's not losing muscle mass, not crash dieting. Um, so I am reducing the calories, maybe about I think 200 or 300 a day on average, um, and yeah, also changing the heavier proportion of my diet to be fats instead of carbs because, like I said, I was holding a lot of water, and that might be confounding things. And so, just to maybe try and circumvent that, I'm taking my carbs back down. I think right around 200. So I'm going from 300 to 200, which it's not a big deal to me. I could, I've gone. There are weeks, which you look back in this vlog itself, and you could see that I've gone. Um, there have been weeks, where is it here, that I've only had 98 grams of carbs per day on average. So going down to around 200 is nothing new for me. And I actually have a preference for the fattier type food, the macadamia, the Greek yogurt, the cashews, um, beef, turkey, that type stuff. Um, so yeah, that's where I'm at in terms of my own progress. I also launched my new beginners program. So hey guys, if you're tuning into that, there's 5 brave souls who are hopping into a 2-week like kickstart, maybe you could say like a test drive. Um, it's purpose built for beginners, either people who haven't been training a lot or getting back in the gym from a long layoff, looking for fat loss. So we'll see what those results are like. I'll give you a midway point checkup, should I have that data by next vlog. And yeah, I came out with another article, like I mentioned earlier, about how to hurdle your fitness obstacles. So I'll be putting that in the newsletter. This will be in the newsletter. The newsletter will be coming out in a matter of minutes, um, relative to right now in the video, and not whenever you watch this. Um, and yeah, still have openings for my coaching program. So if you're interested, give me a holler, and we will start pushing you towards the same results that I'm experiencing, which is improving your body composition, which is everyone's goal, whether they realize it or not. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for listening to me ramble on for like 14, 15 minutes, and I will catch you guys next week.